Welcome everybody. My name is Jody Buchholz, and I'll be your host for Guiding Newcomers to Rural Ontario, Spotlight on Lead Organizations. This workshop will be delivered in English. There is live French translation available by simply clicking on the globe icon with interpretation written below it. We have time for to answer your questions towards the end of this workshop. As Ontario's landscape continues to diversify, the role of lead organizations in guiding newcomers towards settling in rural areas has become increasingly vital. Our workshop will be facilitated by 3 dynamic subject matter experts who will shed light on their organization's impactful work in facilitating successful settlement experiences and fostering vibrant communities outside urban centers. Our first presenter is Cameron Moser. Cameron has helped thousands of other immigrants build healthier, happier, more fulfilling Canadian lives. As the Senior Director of Services and Program Development at ACCESS Employment, he's responsible for services that support immigrants who have already been approved to come to Canada, but who haven't landed yet. With the Connecting Canada project, these individuals are connected to employers in small urban and rural communities across Canada so that they can make more meaningfully informed decisions about where to start their Canadian journeys. With a firm belief that a good life can be built in so many communities across coast to coast to coast, Cameron's a strong advocate for helping to spread the benefits of immigration and more broadly across the country. Our second presenter today is Nicholas Gerardi. Nicholas has a BA in Psychology and Computer Science and a postgraduate certificate in Human Resource Management. With over 12 years of experience in human resources, business management, program development, immigration and settlement, mental health counseling, and project management, Nicholas has worked in both corporate and nonprofit sectors in Iran and Canada. Since 2016, he's held the Technology IT Lead and Case Manager with Care Center Pre-Arrival Support and Services Program, helping internationally educated nurses migrate to Canada. Nicholas will be filling in for Megan Wankel today. Our third presenter is Tanya Maxenko, who brings a distinctive perspective combining 2 powerful lenses: local economic development and mental health and leadership development that enable her to adopt a holistic approach to immigrant settlement and resilient community development. Tanya's professional interests extend to leadership in times of crisis and building strategic partnerships. She's played a pivotal role in successfully integrating Ukrainians displaced by the war into Canada's rural and northern communities. She effectively engages local businesses, municipalities, and stakeholders to create initiatives that facilitate integration while addressing the unique needs of rural communities and employers. In her current role as project lead for the Rural Employment Initiative at the Newcomer Center of Peel, she works with Ontario's small town municipalities on their newcomer attraction and retention strategies. Please join me in welcoming our speakers. And Cameron, over to you to kick us off. I'll get your presentation up on the screen here momentarily.
Thank you so much, Jody. It's a pleasure to be in this room and sharing this space with all of you today. I'm recovering from a cold. I think a lot of us are either have one or recovering from one right now, but I'll do my best to keep my voice up and stay with it. I'm here today to talk about ACCESS Employment's Connecting Canada project, where we are really working on transforming the landing destination decisions of immigrants who are preparing to come to Canada. Go to the next slide there, Jody. For those of you who are aware of us as an organization, we're a leading employment services organization that works on providing really innovative programs to job seekers and employers. We know how important employment is in the lives of individuals and communities, and we know how big of a role employment plays in our identities, our sense of purpose, and that's why we focus so heavily on it. employment, strong employment, putting people's skills to use strengthens the future of Canada and our economy. Next slide. Every year, ACCESS Employment works with about 40,000 job seekers in services that are physically located in the GTA, but with programming across Ontario, across Canada, and around the world. And we do that in partnership with employers, with over 3,200 employers in our network. Next slide. Now, we're talking here about something very specific, though, and that's not all the work we do with the banks in the GTA or other things. We're talking about how we can support immigrants in starting their lives in communities outside of major metropolitan landing areas, particularly here in Eastern Ontario. We know from the last census that the benefits of immigration are heavily concentrated in cities. This isn't anything new, but sometimes the scale here surprises people. You know that more than 90% of immigrants settle in cities with a population greater than 100,000. And that's a really overwhelming number. Next slide. At the same time, we know that rural Canada faces significant labor shortages, particularly for skilled workers and workers with skill sets needed to work in the digital economy. It's not always the welder and the truck driver, even though there's huge needs for welders and truck drivers. There's skills and labor shortages in a huge range of industries, and communities have a very wide diversity of employment types available. And we're really looking at how we can support those communities engaging with skilled immigrants and getting the labor and the skills that they need. Next slide. One of the things that we started to do as we explored how we could better support pre-arrival immigrants, and for those of you who aren't aware of, pre-arrival settlement services, IRCC fund services for immigrants who've been approved to land in Canada, for them to take services before they land in Canada. And as we started to engage that group in this question of whether or not they were looking at opportunities, we quickly found that without an intervention, without something out there in front of them, very few of them were looking at it, but they were open to it when asked. When we surveyed our clients at the start of the Connecting Canada project, 91% of them said that they would consider settling in a smaller urban or rural community if they were offered a job there before they landed in Canada. And that really set out the genesis of the Connecting Canada project. Next slide. So we entered into this space, helping support immigrants in exploring employment and settling, building their lives in smaller urban and rural communities through our Canadian Employment Connections program. This program serves around 1,300 individuals a year, all highly skilled clients with high English language proficiency, in helping them to secure employment either before they land in Canada or as soon as possible after landing. And we've had enormous success with that over the years. We're usually hovering between 25 and 30% pre-arrival employment, and another 55 to 60% post-arrival employment. So we knew that the clients that we were serving were really successful with support in getting high quality employment. We wanted to know whether or not putting them in front of other types of communities would also bring that success so that we could spread the benefits of immigration more broadly across Canada's geography. Next slide. And so we started this project. We started this with a really basic belief, with the belief that if more immigrants knew about the benefits of living in smaller urban and rural communities, more of them would settle there. Now, this seems very straightforward. But I'm sitting here as an immigrant to Canada myself. I've been here, 15 years, 16 years from the United States. And before I immigrated, I could name for you, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. And I'm right next door. So we knew that, it wasn't really, we couldn't really ask that people from all over the world would know about small communities in Canada and the opportunities there. That wasn't really a reasonable expectation. So if we wanted to support them in landing in those communities, we had to get those communities in front of them before they came. Next, Jody. And here we brought into that belief some other things that we know. We know that getting people to move once they've landed is pretty difficult, right? Once we've landed, our kids are in school, maybe our spouse has a job, we've signed a lease, there's some inertia there, there's stickiness once we first land. So we wanted to go into this project helping people to land first in the community that they were going to stay in. We also knew, because we went out and asked them, that pre-arrival immigrants are open to different choices. We knew that they were brave, that they were starting a new life, that they were doing something really new coming to Canada. And when we asked them about moving to smaller urban and rural communities and whether they could start their life there, many of them were supportive of that. And our work with smaller urban and rural communities has really showed us how motivated they are to collaborate in attracting more talent. There's no shortage of great communities out there who want to work to get their names in front of people and help expose what it could be like for people to live in their communities. Next. And here we are. We're good there, Jody, you can go ahead. So what we've been doing is working with communities really from coast to coast to coast. We've been engaging with whatever champions in communities we find. In some communities, that is an economic development corporation. In other communities, it's a chamber of commerce. In other communities, it's a large settlement service provider, or a large employer. But we've been going out and really building those connections, figuring out who in a community is going to be a champion of getting that community in front of potential residents. We started off, we ran some proof of concept events. We used the data from those proof of concept events to secure funding from IRCC under the Service Delivery Improvement Funding. And in the time that we've been delivering this with formal funding, we have connected 3,220 immigrants with smaller urban and rural communities. That's a really impressive number to me. Our teams have worked so hard on that, on getting out there in front of pre-arrival immigrants and helping them see the possibilities that are open for them. But we couldn't have done all of that without communities and employers engaging with us. So in that time, we've had 427 community and employer engagements. And that's really been the key to this work, is bringing all of the stakeholders to the table, right? Bringing the potential resident and the pre-arrival immigrant, bringing their community and potential employers from their community to the table so that we can all really explore and talk about what that looks like together. And it's been creating results. In our midterm project report, we had a rate of 10.5% relocation rate. And what that means is that 10.5% of the individuals who had taken part in the project, who were originally destined for a major metro landing community, so for Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Winnipeg, that 10.5% of those people who took part in this project decided instead to settle in a smaller urban and rural community. We think that that has, a tremendous possibility to influence the way that immigration is steered into smaller communities. And we think that because people are landing in those communities because that's where they chose to land based on everything that they looked at, right? They had a choice to land anywhere in Canada. We helped them to explore different places that they could move. And it's not for everybody, right? Some people are going to land in Toronto no matter what. Other people are going to land in Calgary. But for that 10.5% of the people who we were able to help, we opened up their eyes, helped them connect with employers, move into communities where they're able to afford to live with them and their families, and where they can really start a really amazing Canadian journey. Next slide. I just wanted to share some of our success stories here too. Athira was a wonderful client of ours in a pre-arrival environment. And she was originally open. I'm sorry, I noticed I missed out her original destination here. She was originally destined for Vancouver, and she was very anxious about that and very worried because of the cost of living in Vancouver, right? It's prohibitively expensive for most people to be able to, afford to live. So she was really open to looking out at different communities. As she said, we helped expose her to communities across the country. It opened up lots of possibilities for her. And she chose Prince George, BC, to begin her new life in Canada with a great job with Scotin Engineering that she was able to connect with them before landing. So there's one great, example of how people were able to start their life. Next, Jody. Another is here with Ahmed. So Ahmed was destined for Toronto originally, and he had a pretty successful career in health and safety within the petroleum sector. And so for most of us in the room, we would know that there's not a lot of petroleum jobs in Toronto, but Ahmed had family here, and he had decided he was going to settle down in Toronto to be at least first with that family. When we came to him, we said, look, what if we look at some other places? What if we connect you with some employers in other communities? How could we work to help you explore how you could start your job in different ways there? Ahmed was able to secure pre-arrival employment with Terracon Geotechnic, a company that works in the petroleum sector in Fort McMurray. He got that job offer before he landed, and instead of coming to Toronto and struggling to find work, he started his life in Canada with a job and in a community. Next, Jody. And lastly, I wanted to share the story of Kai here, right? So Kai was interesting because Kai was a provincial nominee, right? He was coming to Alberta, and he was, at first when we approached him about connecting Canada, his thought process was, well, I'm, a provincial nominee, I'm coming to Alberta, so why should I look all around? But even within Alberta, there's lots of choices, right? It's not just Calgary and Edmonton. So we were able to help Kai connect with a hiring manager at PepsiCo through a mentoring event that we held where we highlighted mentoring in smaller urban and rural communities. And he secured a great job with Pepsi before landing and decided to settle in Lethbridge. And his quote, I thought, really stood out to me because he recognized that being restricted geographically limited him so much more than he thought it would, right? That it was cutting off so many different opportunities for him that he was able to open up, with the support of services when he opened his eyes and looked a little more broadly. Next slide. So what we've learned, we've been learning. As I said, we've worked with communities from coast to coast to coast, right? From Newfoundland up through the territories, with the amazing communities in Lanark and Renfrew counties who we've done great work with as well, out through the prairies to BC. We've learned through this project that pre-arrival immigrants are really open to settling in smaller urban and rural communities, right? We've seen the results of that. And those results really shortchange a little bit of the other change that our project has brought about, because we're not counting there, someone who was originally destined to settle in Saskatoon, but they chose to settle in Swift Current because we helped them locate an employer there. So we know that clients are open to that. We know that it works. We know that employers want access to this talent pool, right? To get the kind of first crack at people who are permanent residents who are coming to Canada, who don't need to have additional paperwork done or visa sponsored or anything else, but just who are ready to land if you're ready to give them a job. And we also have learned that the communities that we're working with, they want and actively are seeking out help in how to market themselves to this audience. It's not very cost effective or very time effective always to try and reach out broadly to anyone and everyone who might want to come to Canada. And so reaching out to this pool of people who are already approved for permanent residency and marketing communities to them connects with a natural audience that might be interested in starting their lives in Eastern Ontario, right? Or in Northern BC. Next slide, Jody. I always have to end it up by saying a big thank you to IRCC, who's funded this really innovative research project. We hope that, what the work we're doing is not only going to be providing, great benefits to the immigrants who are starting their lives in Canada with great jobs and the communities who are benefiting from their skills, but also to policymakers and decision makers as they're looking at ways that they can influence landing decisions and support immigration outside of major metro areas. So that's my little spiel, and we'll have time at the end to talk more if you have any questions, but thank you so much, everybody.
So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining our presentation today. And I'm so excited to be here to tell you about the Care Center program and services. And next slide, please, Judy. So our work assisting nurses outside of Canada who are migrating to any province or territory, as well as our work specifically in Ontario, helping international educated nurses establish career as a registered practical nurse and registered nurses. We will also talk about what IENs arriving in Canada need a strategy to support the integration and success of IENs and diverse connection and facilitate with the healthcare employer partners. Next, please. Care Center was founded in 2001 and as one of the Ontario first bridging training program for international educated professionals. We work exclusively with IENs seeking licensure in Canada. And we are funded by the Ontario government to deliver our support, training, and access to regulated employment services known as STARS. The federal government, through Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada, funds our pre-arrival support and service program known as PASS. Next, please. So our PASS program began serving IENs or international educated nurses from around the world in 2016. PASS is designed to help IENs get head start on the credential assessment process with the nursing regulators, the province or territory of destination, while gaining familiarity with the Canadian nursing sector through individual case management, a series of live webinars, nursing communication courses, and opportunity to connect with nurse mentors. PASS program is free of charge with a diploma or degree from a recognized nursing program and proof of approval from immigration to Canada on permanent residence basis. Please, next one. And please don't hesitate to reach out the PASS program. And for more information, you can go to passfornurses.org or email us at passinfo@carefornurses.org. So STARS program, Care Centers support training and access to regulated employment services program. STARS provides IENs with individual case management, language and communication training, exam preparation, professional development, mentoring, and networking opportunity to be successful in the nursing profession. Care Center recognizes the value of nurses with diverse education and experience and is committed to promoting their full contribution to the Canadian healthcare system. And I will pause for a second on this slide so you can see the other programming and services we provide that assist IENs in meeting their regulatory requirements. Next, please. So here's the list of, I think, okay, on my presentation, the office location, the last presentation I gave you, Judy. Oh, it's okay. I can continue with that one. This is the. Okay, and IANS new to Ontario work with an assigned case manager to achieve guidance in multiple areas as noted on this slide. And next, please. So IANs may face challenges and barriers as they pursue nursing licensure, including the complexity and length of the registration process, securing original third-party documentation to submit for assessment, recognition of credential degree equivalency, meeting regulatory registration requirements, the limited availability of academic bridging program or courses, the financial burden associated with licensure, gaining registration within the 3 years evidence of practice, and meeting the regulatory registration requirements, including licensure exam, ASCII, language, and other things. And further barrier can be faced after licensure is achieved as IANs pursue employment, including searching for effective job search techniques, difficulty preparing resume, cover letter, and for interviews, difficulty with finding work that matches expertise, and systematic discrimination in hiring decision. Also, no established network. Basically, we help them to make a good network as well. Next, please. So STAR's case manager help IANs seek both nursing and non-nursing opportunities, depending upon where they are in their licensure journey, including employment skills workshop, resume and cover letter review, and mock interview preparation. We have privileged a relationship with a number of employers and provide referrals to posting and online or in-person recruiting fairs. We also offer many professional development sessions throughout the year to further enhance members' nursing technical and essential skills, such as home care, IT therapy, oncology, ECG, head-to-toe assessment. We also offer monthly Meet the Employer webinar where IAN can connect with diverse employers, get a better understanding of their workplace culture and existing employment opportunities. Next, please. So the STARS program offers diverse mentoring opportunity through observational job shadowing and virtual mentoring. So through the collaborative arrangement with a variety of healthcare organizations, IANs gain a unique learning experience in which they are partnered with an expert nurse for a few work shifts to observe firsthand the nursing profession in Ontario. Our partner organizations include hospitals, home care, community, and long-term care facilities. OJS, or observational job shadowing, is strictly observational with no direct hands-on patient care. It aims to increase the IAN's understanding of the role and scope of practice of a nurse in a particular healthcare setting and better understanding the language and culture of the Canadian workplace. Next, please. So through the pandemic, we also began offering virtual mentoring via telephone or Zoom. Through this connection, IANs can ask, learn about the facility and the role of nurses within the particular work setting as well. And we are fortunate to have the support of many partners and offer a members-only job site for STARS participants, as you can see on this slide. Next, please. And here is a sampling using our promotional flyer of the types of meet the employer session that we facilitate. We are always eager to raise awareness of as a wide range of connection as possible for the IENs we serve, including through access to employers in similar Canadian cities, towns, rural or remote areas where their skills are so needed. And helping international educated nurses use their skill in healthcare benefits everyone. So employers can support IENs, recognize their important role, and ensure they stay in their job. But this support should not stop after they hire. IENs need ongoing help and chances to grow in their career for long-term success in the healthcare field. And here is the list of our office location. Our head office is in Toronto, and we have a regional office in Brampton, Hamilton, London, and Windsor to serve surrounding areas. Case manager work with client one-on-one in catchment area throughout southwestern Ontario from Windsor to Kingston, virtually serving IENs in Ottawa and Northern Ontario. We also provide teleconferencing and through the Skype or Zoom services for clients who are in a rural or remote area as well. And of course, our PASS program, which serve internationally, we serve many countries around the world through our pre-arrival support and service PASS program, which is funded by IRCC as well. And last slide, and thank you for attending our session today. And we are so happy we could be here to connect with you. And if you have any question, you can reach out us to info@Care for Nurses or go to our website, Care for Nurses, so you can see both program, pre-arrival program. If you are coming to any province or any territory in Canada, join PASS program, and a STARS program for those of you arriving in Ontario. Thank you.
One moment, please. I just have to share with audio. My apologies.
It's probably the lakes. You know, for instance, out at Quetico Lodge, Eva Lake is a beautiful lake. There's a big beach there, one of the prettiest, pristine places you'll ever see. That's probably our strongest selling point, except for how nice the town is. You really don't realize it till you're here, but the people in this town would give anything to help someone else. It's really special. Hi, I'm Scott Manford. I'm the HR and Safety Superintendent for the Atikokan Sawmill for Resolute. I was born and raised in Atikokan. The town, you know, to me is exceptional. As a child, I went to school here, and I still remain here.
As far as lakes per capita anywhere in Canada, you can't touch this. So if you have any love of the outdoors or even the scenic value or the leisure part of it, there's no place you should want to be other than Atikokan. So my name's Greg Korniski. I am the facility manager for Resolute Atikokan. Being able to join the Atikokan operation and work with what I consider a very special community sawmill that Resolute's allowed us to manage in that community aspect.
Atikokan We built our sawmill in 2015. It's a very modern manufacturing facility. It's a great opportunity for people to have the experience of Northwest Ontario with a great career, great lifestyle.
Well, population decline, shifts in the labor market, and secondary migration have already started to reshape Canada's economic outlook. Northern communities are no different.
Okay, Tanya, over to you.
We could go to the first slide, please. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for the wonderful presentations. Indeed, pre-arrival work is essential, and nurses, everywhere I go, every community needs them, and thank you so much for your great work in assisting nurses with figuring out how to find employment here. I'm Tanya Maximenko, and I'm a project lead for Rural Employment Initiative at Newcomers Center of Peel. And we're funded by RCC, and our goal is to help those newcomers who have landed in the GTA explore Ontario, see what rural and small town communities have to offer. And in the next 15 minutes, I would like to share some of the examples of our work, share some of the stories and lessons learned. From my over 7 years of work with newcomers, some of the themes that continues to come up is preference for small town lifestyle. For some people, it's not for everyone. However, many emphasize that's where they would like to raise a family, either because they are from a big city and they are just tired of it, they want a change, or they are coming from a small community and that's a good fit for them. Of course, housing costs is always a big driving factor. Urban centers are becoming more expensive, and it's just harder to get employment, and many people would relocate where they can find a job. So I will be sharing, just to make it real, I brought some pictures and names of our clients who have relocated, and we have Vivek from Thunder Bay, who I met when he first landed. And if you click, Jody, if you click on a little triangle there, we can actually see Vivek, like on the triangle on the map, yeah. We can see a little bit of his story, how he dreamed to live in a big city, but he discovered more.
Moving up in your life, in your financial stability, giving a better future for the kids. So my name is Vivek, and I currently live in Thunder Bay. I work as a program advisor, and I work in my field. I graduated as an electrical engineer. A couple of years back, when I immigrated to Canada, I came as an immigrant here, and I landed in Mississauga, so big city. I moved from a big city, so I chose Mississauga as my initial destination. So I struggled for a few months to get a job in engineering, and there are many jobs in Mississauga, but there are many applicants too. So I met with Tanya, and Tanya said you should be more open to rural areas. Communities like Thunder Bay, they have like 100,000, 120,000 people, and still they have universities, good colleges. You can go and watch Terry Fox Museum. It's amazing. It's very inspiring, and you have the Canada's longest zip line, and there is a sleeping giant. You can go and visit, and amazing Fort William Museum. So there are a lot of activities and amazing parks for kids, like a splash pad, coffee shops, and right by the lakes all around. You can go fishing, you can go biking, and you can go trails. Even in the snow, like you can do like ice fishing. So there are a lot of like activities. There are tons of restaurant and safe place. So you name it, and Thunder Bay has it. It has changed. Like a lot has changed. People are more progressive, and like people are welcoming here. That's what I find. Like 99.99% people are good.
If I could give one piece of advice, it would be
hopeful and don't lose hope. And oh, you know, that thought always comes to everybody's mind. Am I in the right place? But I would say yes, you are in the right place, right country. You choose Canada for a reason, and that reason was always there, and it always be there.
Move up to Thunder Bay. We can't wait to meet you.
Of course, Thunder Bay is a large city, but it's remote and not everyone knows about it. So I wanted you to see this video as an example of how a newcomer becomes an ambassador for their community. And last year I had an opportunity to be in the region and visit some of our clients who have relocated in the past several years. And many of them were asking me, Tanya, when are you moving to Thunder Bay? And that was really a good sign for me, because I could see the enthusiasm, and like off the record, like I always have very honest conversations with people. I asked them how they feel about their decision, and they were all very happy. There is also a small community there of Atikokan, which is less than 3,000, and we have placed over 50 people there as well. So big and small, but those are remote and unknown places, as Cameron mentioned in his presentation. People mostly know Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. So through our project, we try to, for the employers or communities, we try to be your hand in the international pool in the GTA, highlight and amplify your voice. And we also work with some community around cross-cultural strategies. And this is just an example of a couple of projects that we do. We can just quickly, we won't like maybe see the whole thing, but this is an example of our one of our collaborations with Timmins.
I would like
and
to welcome you
really
to the
good, and this is Thunder Bay, really a good way to
today.
help people here in the GTA or pre-arrival to learn about places in Northern Ontario. And this is an example of an employer spotlight where we were able to highlight a particular employer who is actively hiring and is interested in being visible among newcomers. So, okay, we can skip this one, go to the next one. Oh, it seems like we went back. Yeah, sorry about that. And it's just another example of different things we do is practically like, how do you do it? We always say we like to connect, we like to inform, we like to help people discover, but it all boils down to practical steps, and you have to continuously be creative because things change. What worked in the past, even pre-COVID, doesn't work anymore. It's becoming so expensive and people need to get to work right away. Some people come on work visas and they don't have that luxury of perhaps spending 6 months or 9 months as we did in the past as immigrants, networking and learning. So bringing employers, job fairs, and facilitating those type of activities really helps employers connect with job seekers. And another example is a virtual project that we did with Bruce County. This was during COVID when we were not able to physically travel to the location. So we created a virtual portal and did virtual bus tours and all kinds of activities that help people explore and see it for themselves what this community has to offer. And some other examples, bus tours. We have a bus tour coming up to Chatham Kent, and there is another one in to North Bay, and conferences. We have mini webinar series and trainings. And as I said, it's ongoing. It's something that you have to continuously see what is the demand from both sides. Being a connector can be tough. Setting and managing expectations is definitely one of the lessons that I had to learn through this work. just a few quick examples of one of the bus tours we did with our partner in Norfolk County was successful, and collaborating with stakeholders in the community and finding those who are willing and ready to be a little bit more creative, because it's not just a job that a newcomer needs. Where they're going to live, how they're going to get to work if it's a small community and there is no public transport. There is really a lot of questions. I would not like anyone to listen to my impressive presentation, for example, when I speak to newcomers and say, yeah, sure, this looks so good, or like even go on a bus tour and be like really enjoy the scenery and say, I'm going to go, and then come there and find out that it's not for them and it doesn't work, and they have medical needs that require them to be in Toronto. So helping people think through is really key here. And as one of our partners said that regarding the bus tour that I just shared with you, we wanted to figure out something that we could do to help Ukrainians seeking refuge in Canada. And at the same time, it's assisting our businesses. So this is just an example of how it's very important to help those who are seeking employment, but also the economic lens, right? Like what are the skill sets that that community needs? And through our project, we build it on 3 pillars. So it's job development, employee engagement, and diversity awareness. I won't have time now to go deep into how we assist with retention, and we believe that retention starts with attraction. I mentioned a little bit on how to understand who is the right person for a small community, who will stay and be happy, and who will eventually get frustrated and say, as one of my clients told me, Tanya, I'm a city boy, like, you know, I'm going back to the GTA. And which is good, helping people make informed decision. But if any of you is interested in attraction and retention and wants to have a deeper conversation, I'm available for that. Yeah, this is the video we were trying to play, but it didn't work for us. So maybe we could share a link later, or we can go to the next slide. Just another example, and if you ask me, like, what's the secret sauce, some people ask, or like, how do you do it? It's hard work. It's sometimes just going into those like manufacturing environments, like understanding what it means to work there, meeting people, having conversations with them. And as you can see here, this is a Ukrainian worker who I met in one of the manufacturing environments in Atipokan. So promoting jobs that are suitable for women as well, helping them understand that there is no barriers and anyone can apply. This is an example of a community we work with in Collingwood, and we had people who found a job there as they were fleeing the war, and they said people have been good here and very friendly. And you know, one of the candidates, when she came to the interview, and I was translating for many interviews, I was so impressed by her attitude. She said they started asking questions. Of course, there is a language barrier for her to be able to do like a proper elevator pitch, but she said, I'm from rural Ukraine, I can do anything. And believe me, she's still there, she's working. She also gave birth to a baby and like really engaged, happy, doing really well, because she was the right fit. Through the conversation, we were able to help her discover that. Is this right for you at this time of your life? Or would you be a better fit for a big city? And many people are. This is an example of one of our bus tour. And I really like the slogan, never stop exploring, because that's basically our philosophy. You have my contact information if anyone would like to discuss those topics. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity, Jordan.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for that insightful, those insights and for those strategies. Thank you to Cameron. And of course, thank you to our good friend, Nicholas, who has stepped in for Megan today. So as we transition to the last couple minutes, we've got 5 minutes to ask some questions to our subject matter experts here. So if you have any questions, pop them into the feed loop chat window, which should be to the right of your Zoom screen. And we'll spend the next 5 minutes asking questions and getting some answers and opinions. We've got one question here, folks, and this is for all of you, I think. What is your biggest tip for rural communities who are now at a point where they're looking to actively attract newcomers to their region? If you had to give one piece of advice, what would that be? And each of you can take a turn. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Jody. I think, the tip that I give communities is to step outside of yourself for a second and don't think of yourself in relation to Toronto or in relation to Calgary. That's not why people are considering, coming there, right? People are considering moving to Swift Current, Saskatchewan for different reasons, right? Or moving to Lanark, Renfrew County for different reasons. And so really looking at your place outside of its traditional power dynamics with other cities and province, and saying, if I had to choose between paying $3,000 for a 1-bedroom basement apartment or starting my life in this community where I can afford something, which one of these is going to be attractive and to what people, right? So, don't compare. There's people who live all kinds of wonderful lives all over the place, and all too often we can allow ourselves to get into that comparative mindset of our own, and it really holds us back.
Yeah, great point, Cameron. Any thoughts on that, Nicholas or Tanya?
Tanya, go ahead.
I have 2 tips, but they're quick. One, support that champion. There is probably someone in your community who is already doing a great job. You'd be surprised, but oftentimes these people are by themselves. They're usually a little bit different. They're creative, they're forward thinking, they're like that ambassador of their community. It could be an employee, it could be an economic developer, anyone. Support them, really. They probably already went ahead and figured out a couple of steps. No need to reinvent the wheel, support the initiative. My other tip might be a little bit unexpected, but don't oversell. It's a cultural thing as well, but you lose trust. In our attempt to highlight all those beautiful points clearly, because we like our community, we oversell and we don't create a conversation where a newcomer can trust you. It's better to have honest conversations, and believe me, newcomers will come to your community if you honestly tell them this is what it is and this is what it isn't, and just treat them as an adult who is able to make an informed decision, not as someone who feels that something is being sold to them. Again, as I said, it's cultural. Sometimes some cultures are kind of more positive, and some cultures like to say, just, let's just have a real life conversation. So perhaps consult with cross-cultural experts and make sure your message doesn't oversell.
Nicholas, any thoughts on that one?
I cannot say anything to add to Tanya and Cameron that they mentioned very well. Like myself, I came to Manitoba like 20 years ago. In Winnipeg, I lived there for 8 years in Winnipeg, so I love that. Even it was a smaller community compared to Toronto, I love that. Lots of good opportunity there, very nice people there, good university. So everything was good. I mean, compared to when I came to Toronto, everything got expensive. It wasn't easy to live right now, especially. But because of the family reason, I moved here. If my family was there, I would stay in Winnipeg as well. But yeah, it is about many reasons. Both of like Tanya and Cameron mentioned that as a tip. So I cannot add anything more to there.
And so with our last 2 minutes together here, maybe one of you can answer this. Do you think that new immigrants are more drawn to big cities like Toronto because they are more likely to find religious institutions, grocery stores, and community halls of their cultural origin?
Yeah, I would say what we find in all the clients we work with in the Connecting Canada project is that clients are drawn to the places that they already know about, right? We shouldn't imagine that people are getting these ideas, and they've got spreadsheets of different communities and pros and cons and this and that. If what you know about is 2 or 3 places, you're going to choose one of those 2 or 3 places. So it's really not possible for someone to consider living in a community if they've never been approached, never been considered it. They just don't know that it exists. So getting in front of people and helping them inform their decisions, I think is great work that Tanya is doing, and the work from Newcomer Center Appeal is work that ACCESS Employment is doing, Connecting Canada, so that people aren't just making a default decision, because the default decision would not be to deal with the cost of living that we have in the GTA, right? Like if that were an informed decision, it couldn't be, because we see the real negative repercussions that has on individuals and families.
Okay, well, again, before we close today's workshop, I do, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank Cameron, Nicholas, and Tanya for their time and outstanding workshop here today. I'd also like to thank our attendees for joining us today, and we hope that you'll join us for one of our 3 p.m. workshops. So you have 2 to choose from that will be starting in 5 minutes. So we really do urge you to have a bio break and hop into the next session. So thank you, merci, miigwech.